Welcome back to Tetewatha Partyline Talkshow. I'm your host, Louann Stacey, and joining me today for MCK Friday is Chief Kahsennenhawe Sky Deer, as well as, I'm going to try, Katsistihkwí. Yeah, Katsistihkwí, Jacco. I was close now. And we're going to finish up one more thing on your file, and then we'll slowly make our way into S3. Because I already have some questions for you from the community. So.
Okay, great. So the final and fourth portfolio that I am involved in is Community Social Affairs. The lead portfolio chief is Carl Horn, and then there's myself, Rhonda Kirby, and Chief Harry Rice that are on this portfolio. And it's divided up into client-based services, which encompasses the Kahnawa'kehró of Kahnawake, formerly the membership department, social assistance and housing, child care and daycare, youth services and entities, elder services and entities, Connecting Horizons, and the Kahnawake Library. My focus within community social affairs, of course, because of my involvement in the last two terms, is membership and residency. We do have the Kahnawake of Kahnawake law, or membership law, that passed this summer. There's still one more regulation that we need to go back to the community to ensure they're comfortable with that. And then the residency law, we're going to use S3 as the ramp up. We did have messages in the last 2 years about it. That we went to the standing committee and presented in 2016. We had the Iroquois Caucus Summit. So it has been discussed. I mentioned it at a few community meetings now. So I think the community members who might not have heard about it are saying, why now? You know, how come we're only hearing about it now? But it has been in the news. We are going to be developing a residency law. It's actually done. It's just a matter of posting it, having the community take a look and go through it in a formal reading, and then it can be passed because it is an urgent law in response to S3. Katsistihkwí Jacco is here with me today because she's the technical person that's going to be assisting with the S3 engagements with the community. As well, we hired Brandon Adunyu Bordeaux to be our communications officer on S3, and then there's also a few other members of the team: Alan John Rice, Winona Polson Lahash, and Roseanne Morris. So, and Ross Montour is also the second on the membership file, along with myself. So we have developed a plan in terms of engaging with the community. We wanted to do a kiosk, or a few of them anyways, and this past Saturday was the first one.
How did it go?
Actually, it went really well. What we wanted to do, because we developed a formal S3 information package. It has all of, the background and everything to get somebody up to speed. So really what we went to the kiosk with was a form, because we know when people come to the services complex, they're there to do their banking, post office, and get on with their Saturday. So we didn't want to bombard them and make them, go through a full presentation. So we basically asked them to circle an option. If they wanted to inform themselves, we gave them a package. If they want to do a focus group, we're going to be setting up community focus groups with maybe 10 to 15 community members max. So it'll be, more intimate to be able to have that circle dialogue, as you just mentioned. We can do organized private family and friends sessions.
Oh, okay.
So maybe 6 to 12 people will actually go to your home and present to you if you're more comfortable in that kind of environment. Organized session within your organization of employment. I'll let you mention how you developed letters last week for the orgs.
Yeah, so last week, Kahsennenhawe had asked me to help her develop letters, because we're targeting to go to as many organizations in the community as possible. It'd be easiest to just, if they want us to come in and present on S3, whoever's interested of their employees, we can go right to them while they're at work. If that's feasible, we set presentations which should only take an hour. We actually did our first one without Kahsennenhawe on Monday to the MCK, and whoever wanted to come from all the different units did show up. And so, we were able to do it within an hour with questions and everything. And we are even giving them the option of doing it at lunch hour or after hours as well.
And let me just ask, what was the feedback?
From the presentation on Monday. So I did develop a feedback form. So the first question I asked was, did you even know anything about S3 at all? And we knew we would get some that said no. So we did get, I think, Brandon was collecting the data from the feedback forms, and he had said maybe about 5 of 15 who did respond said no, they didn't know anything about it, which is interesting. Like, you know, they are employees of MCK, so it just kind of goes to show that community members may not be aware of what's going on.
And I think Gus said that earlier. With all of the communication that goes out, still people are missing the boat, and I think that's quite a reflection of the community. You know, just given the numbers.
And another option we provided on the form was a special community meeting. So we said maybe 25 to 50 community members, and we already picked a date for this. It's going to be on December 12th. It's a Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. And I think maybe about 15 to 20 people picked that option on the form. And yeah, so we're opening it to community. I mean, not just the people who filled out the form, but, you know, anybody who wants to come to this first special community meeting, a presentation on S3. Like we said, it's probably an hour to an hour and a half. So we're targeting from 7 to 8:30, Peacekeeper Station Community Room on Wednesday, December 12th. There will be more information coming out. I'm sure we're going to do a press release. And another thing that we asked is, check here if you agree for this information to be used for future engagement on other community issues or matters. So then we know if people like the direct one-on-one, they like a focus group, because like you said, we got to find new ways of engaging with our community.
Absolutely.
So as I mentioned, I think 75 people on a Saturday morning took
that
the
was
time
really good.
Yeah, just to fill out the form. You know, we told them, look, we're going to take a minute of your time, fill this out, and we'll get back to you at a later date. And we took all this week to contact the people who at least chose the special community meeting and inform themselves, because we do have 2 more kiosks coming up that have already been scheduled. If you maybe want to explain that.
Yeah, the next kiosks that are coming up are going to be on December 4th, which is actually this Tuesday. So from 9 a.m. to noon. And then again on December 11th, which is a Tuesday again, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay. But at least we're getting information out. So before we move ahead, let's just do a recap of this thing with S3 so our listeners can get at least a frame of what we're talking about and we don't lose anybody. You know, just a little bit of background quickly.
Okay, so the S3 started in Odanak, the community of Odanak. There was a man who wanted his children to get status under the Indian Act because his grandmother had married out, and then his mother married out, and he married out. But he felt that his children should be eligible for Indian status under the Indian Act, so he took it to the Superior Court of Quebec. He won. So the Superior Court directed Canada to amend the Indian Act because there was still sexist discrimination against the women and their descendants who had, if they married out, because in the men's line, status would have been continually granted.
Right.
So there were standing committee meetings that happened through November, December of 2016 before the law actually got royal assent. So myself and Grand Chief Joseph Tequir Norton went to the standing committee and we said, Canada, with all due respect of you trying to remove all of the wrongs that you did in the past 140 years, you're not considering how this is going to impact communities, and we're asking you to put a halt on it for a little while until you can really assess and evaluate how this is going to impact. We're not against people getting Indian status if they should have been eligible for it, but because of your discrimination practices, that's your fault,
right? Not
ours. And really look at the financial impacts it's going to have, because we're already having inadequate funding for the programs that are important to us, like education and housing and so forth. Now you're going to add all these people to the tune of 1.2 million across the country. When you look at the region of Quebec, it's about 365,000. So when you look at Kahnawakehró's demographic population and look at our region, what's around us, those numbers become problematic for us. So within the last 2 months, as I mentioned, even in April, we had some idea of numbers, and that's why we went to the Iroquois caucus and we wanted to inform all of the leadership within the nation and the Confederacy about what's coming. And I don't want to say it fell on deaf ears, but the engagement that we were looking for didn't
Wasn't
happen.
there, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of follow-up that has to happen, and I think, within our community now, because we have been always mindful and cognizant of the membership issues that have been created as a result of Canada's involvement and meddling in our affairs, that we've always developed some kind of a position or a protective measure or something. So with this, the community really needs to be eyes wide open about what this means, and we're not necessarily afraid that all these people are going to move back, because we know, people are set in their ways, they've lived elsewhere. The problem becomes that they will have rights and decision-making authority according to Canada when it comes to our lands. So there was recently an Algonquin of Ontario land claim that was settled, and the majority of the people that voted weren't even Algonquin. They were on Canada's list of Algonquins, but the real Algonquin community is mostly in the Quebec area, to my understanding. So all the people in Ontario that voted away these 9 million acres of land for money, that becomes scary for us. We have, seigneury land claim. We have other, things, the Mohawk Nation claim. Potentially the numbers would, they would outnumber us by tenfold.
And it's interesting because at the education meeting, they were talking about, people were complaining about post-secondary students not having enough funding. All of a sudden, other people, imagine how much more it's going to be.
Yep. And
I'm just using that as one example.
Exactly. And that's what we said. They'll be eligible for non-insured health benefits. They'll be eligible for post-secondary. And we can't even fund the people that we have here, like Unguehue people. And there's such a distinction between Unguehue, Kahnawa'kehró people, and who Canada recognizes as an Indian under the Indian Act. You could have zero blood, Unguehue blood, and still be an Indian under the Indian Act because you married and you acquired rights. Or anyway, so that's why I said it becomes scary, and we're going to do whatever it takes to, come up with protective measures for our community. We have some ideas that I'd rather not talk about on air.
Okay.
We do have these information sessions coming up, the focus groups, the community meetings. So we're asking people to engage, and we're giving you a variety of options to get the information. And we hope people take the opportunity even to contact us, directly and sign up for one of these sessions so that we can come and inform you. We also launched a website. Maybe you want to talk about the website?
Can we just take a break and we'll be right
sure.
back? You're listening to K103.7 Tetewatha. Today is MCK Friday, and I'm joined by Chief Kahsennenhawe as well as Katsistihkwí Jacco.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back.
K103.7 Radio has an opening for...
Welcome back to Tetewatha Partyline Talkshow. I'm your host, Louann Stacey, and today's MCK Friday, and we're joined by Chief Kahsennenhawe as well as Katsistihkwí Jacco, and we're talking about S3 and I guess the impacts, and I'm hoping that the community's engaging, because I think this one again is another big turn in our history. Could make so much impact. Thinking about 35 to 65,000 people returning back to the community, half of whom we probably don't even know or have any kind of contact with. But I guess it kind of puts us in a spot too, because we do have people who've been waiting so long to get on the list, who people who belong here or should be here, elders, and I know lots of people. I have family members that don't live here, but married people from here, but don't live in the community, live in the state somewhere or whatever. And in my mind, they belong here, yet someone else who has no connection is going to be allowed to come. And of course, they don't open up any purse strings. Right. Or additional land, or et cetera, et cetera. It's just like, we're going to fix it by doing this. And I think that's something that's irking at me. Again, they messed us up before. Now they're going to come back and try to mess us up again.
And somebody made a comment to me yesterday, well, maybe if you weren't in this Indian Act system, this wouldn't be happening. And you know what? I think no matter what kind of system you're in, it's still going to happen, because Canada has this paternalistic mentality that they know what's best for us, and they control matters that affect First Nations across Canada. So any legislation or anything they come up with, whether we like it or not, is going to have some kind of impact on us.
Yeah.
And, that's why we thought it was important to launch a website as well. It's Kahnawake.com/S3. Because, maybe we won't be able to reach everybody at the kiosks or any of these special meetings and focus groups that we're going to hold, but we wanted the information to be available and accessible online. So it's there. And in terms of what Gazisto mentioned of community members asking, like, what are we going to do? How do you deal with this? And on a political level, like we are doing whatever to try to push back and say, why don't you just put them on a general list? You don't have to make them Mohawks of Kahnawake, because only we should be able to determine who our people are. And like you said, we know who our families are.
We know.
That is our connection and our connectivity. This community has long been, based on our family system, our clan systems, and so forth, so that we know who our people are. But if they've been away for so long, like you mentioned, maybe they're married in, maybe they're married out.
Yeah.
But those are factors that need to be taken into consideration. Did they ever even come to the community? Do they even know where Kahnawake is on the map? Are they just calling because they want now
resources free?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be like a filtering process, if you will. And I think that's part of, the proposals that we want to go to the community with and say, how are we going to deal with this? Because we're not saying we're going to build a Trump wall and no one's allowed in, and you know what I mean? There's definitely going to have to
I didn't even think of that.
There's definitely going to have to be mechanisms that we develop, because it has to be on our terms. We don't like Canada unilaterally dictating to us acceptability or acceptance of individuals. We have criteria right now as it stands of who could be recognized as a Ganyagahaga of Kahnawake. And we will also have a residency law to decide who could live here based on other criteria, and that's going to be coming. It's there. It's ready. I think using this threat, because that's what we're calling it, Canada's new assimilation threat.
Yeah.
We really wanted to use strong messaging to get it across to the community that this is imperative. It's really, really the worst thing that Canada has done since residential schools.
Yeah.
Because it's really taking away our ability. We're in this resurgence phase right now, right? We're trying to reclaim language, culture, identity from all that was stripped from us, and
healing.
Yes.
All that healing and stuff that's going on.
And to think that, making a move like this is just going to rectify, 150 years of damage that they did to us, like I said, they really didn't consider how this is going to have impact in communities, just like cannabis. They didn't really consider.
No.
They didn't even take into account how First Nations were going to deal with the legislation. So it's unfortunate, that we're always trying to counter and come up with a plan, and there's so much. But on the next breath, they're trying to do, it's reconciliation, it's nation to nation.
Here's money for
language and whatever. But and then on the next hand, here's all this other stuff that's going against the concept of the Turo and not legislating and interfering in our affairs. So we got a long road ahead of us, and the fight. I wish, in 2019, the community can see that we're broken. We need healing. We need to come together. We need positiveness. We need leadership. Otherwise, I look at this and we always talk about the 7 generations. What 7 generations?
We won't have.
We won't have a land base. No. We won't have protections. We're going to be like everybody else. That's the goal.
So let me ask a question then. What can the community do? We know what the MCK is doing. What can the community do?
Get informed, get engaged. I think a lot of people in the community just go about their day to day and like, what? It's so negative right now and people are, attacking one another. Get off of social media. I don't know what it is about Facebook, but it's more of a detriment to us than a positive at this point, because, people are dealing with their own, whatever's going on in their lives that, they just lash out at each other, and that's so against our spirit of who we're supposed to be as Ganyagahaga and Ungwehunwe. Where's those principles? Peace, good mind, and once we have that, then we have that cohesion and what we can do as a community, because I think we're capable of so much more than what we're putting out right now. And I hate to say it, it's kind of embarrassing. And I think it's because there's so many people who are not grounded in who they are as Ungwehunwe people. And it's not their fault. We know, like we said, a lot of things that have happened to us over time and the healing that has to take place. But I think everybody can make that conscious effort to say, you know what, in 2019, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to contribute and I'm going to be a positive mover and shaker for this community, because complaining on Facebook and calling everybody out on Facebook is counterproductive to the movement that I think we need as a community. I know a lot of people are waiting for, when's the next 1990 going to happen so I can get involved and do something. Well, maybe it's not blocking the bridge or doing something like that, but we're going to take a stand with this. We have to. And I think it starts with people knowing what it is about.
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it mean for Kahnawake? What does it mean for our future? And how they can get their families at least informed of this. And like I said, I don't want to speak on air about the interim protective measures that we're contemplating, but
there is something in the works.
Definitely. And but we need buy-in.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take a community to hold hands together and say, not on our watch.
Yeah.
We're going to be that opener and closer of that wall that allows people to come in. Not on Canada's decisions, I'm sorry.
So on December 11th, let's talk a little bit more about that meeting. What is planned to happen?
Okay, no, the 12th.
Oh, 12th, sorry, my apologies.
There's kiosks on the 4th and the 11th, but the special community meeting will be on the 12th at the Peacekeepers Community Station. I'm sure Katsistihkwí, Alan, John, and Brandon, because they already have the experience with doing the actual presentation. We're going to go through, maybe you could talk a little bit about how the rollout will go for the discussions.
So we're planning on, we're going to try to do the same thing that we did at MCK, basically.
Oh, okay.
So that was like our first test run. We only had an afternoon to prepare for it, but we did really well. We got a lot of positive feedback saying that we did a good job on educating people, and that's also a question in the feedback form, so that we know how well did we do and how can we go ahead and moving forward improve our presentation. So we did get a lot of positive feedback, so we're going to be using that same presentation, just spruce it up a little bit, made it more visually appealing for when we go out to the community. And basically we're giving them a background of the Indian Act and how a big part is how registration works, because even for the average community member, you don't understand how federal Indian registration works. Even I didn't really understand it before starting this position. And so a lot of the presentation focuses on explaining what Indian registration is, how it works, and how it's different from the Kahnawake registry.
Oh, okay.
So, and even with that, community members may not know the difference between the fact that we have our own Kahnawake registry and then the federal government has their registry, and that those numbers are quite different.
An example of what is the difference in the ratio right now?
We have 6,700 members on the KKR, but Canada says we have 11,200 or something thereabouts. So it's a discrepancy of about 4,000. So as a result of S3, that's why I said it's going to be exponential.
And this is just right now without even
in
S3.
real time, exactly.
Yeah.
So, part of how this all started was Canada was embarking on this process called the collaborative process. They wanted to come into the community and with their INAC officials and garner discussions with our people. And we said, no. You're not coming in here in our community to talk about membership and citizenship and registration. We've always kind of did our own thing when it came to these kind of matters, like the moratorium on mixed marriages, the membership law, Mohawk law, and we said, no, we're going to develop our own engagement process with our people, and we're going to develop a community position that we will submit as Kahnawak's official composition in regard to S3. So that's pretty much what we did. Chief and Council denounced the collaborative process. We had all 12 chiefs sign an MCED. We even did an open letter to the Prime Minister and Minister Carolyn Bennett, the Minister of Indigenous Affairs, basically saying you're really making a big mistake with the direction that you're taking with this law and these amendments, and Kahnawake is going to take the lead to do what we have to do to protect our community inform other First Nations, our Kahnawa'kehró Nation, and we're going to start making stances and positions on this. So that's basically where we're at. Like I said, it's going to take the community to really understand what this means, and for us to, again, come up with a unified position.
Okay. You're planning to re-bring this back up at Iroquois Caucus meeting, which is coming up this week, right?
This Sunday.
This
Yep.
Sunday, yeah.
This Sunday from 3 till 8 o'clock. It's in Ottawa. I already spoke to some of the chiefs from Akwesasne and Katsistihkwí, so they should be there in terms of, the next steps, and providing them with the new information package that we have, and, gearing them up as well to be informed and whatever positions they're going to take in their communities, and hopefully
Are they
position.
working on it the way our community is, or not to the same level?
I don't think anybody is to the same level.
No,
as
No.
Kahnawake,
Okay.
right?
Okay. And that's
So-
a bit of a challenge, because if we could get together with even our own people of the Confederacy, and then get other people online, because I know I've been across the country to many First Nation communities in different areas, and they are never even close sometimes to our community in terms of anything, whether it was health or education, or their way of thinking is a little bit different, and I'm not saying anything about that, but it's very difficult for us to become collective, because ideally, to deal with something this big, it has to be collective.
Definitely. Well, I want to thank you for your time, and for everybody out there that tuned in today.
Maybe just a few more one more thing on the date, so people can get involved, and if people had questions or needed more information, who they can contact.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'll recap on the upcoming important dates. So again, December 4th, which is this Tuesday, at the Services Complex, there's going to be a kiosk on S3 from 9 a.m. to noon. And then the following week, again on a Tuesday, December 11th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Those are the two kiosks. And then the next day is the special community meeting, which is December 12th at 7 p.m. in the PK Community Room. For the members of the Bill S3 Working Group are, again, Chief Kahsennenhawe, myself, Katsistihkwí Jacco, Alan John Rice, who's the manager of the Kahnawa'kehró of Kahnawake office.
Yep.
Brandon Bordeaux, he was specially contracted as the communications officer for S3. Winona Polson-Lahash, and Roseanne Morris.
And they can contact people at
The Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, 450-632-7500. And as also mentioned, we do have a Bill S3 website now, and all of our contacts should be on there as well. If it's not right now, I will make sure it is this afternoon, so that people can contact us directly, email us, ask for the info, set up these special meetings with their family and friends, and we'll come and present. So we want to do all of the info, from now until, I would say, mid-January.
'Cause that's what I was
And
gonna
then it's
ask.
going to shift from mid-January till March to start getting feedback from the community about the proposed interim measures and protective measures, and coming up with a joint unified community position.
Okay. Thank you, ladies, for joining me today. I'm sure you're going to be back on in the near future. This is a very hot topic, and please, people, get involved.